There's some struggles that people just talk about openly, and then there's those struggles that people carry completely alone. So, the kind that keep you awake at 2 a.m. in the morning, the kind that make you question who you are, the kind that slowly steal your joy from your relationship, your confidence, your identity, and your life. Today's guest understands that battle deeply. Matt has dedicated himself to helping people trapped in obsessive fear, intrusive thoughts, shame, and identity anxiety. And he's helped them to finally understand inside their minds and, more importantly, how to get their lives back. This is more than just a conversation about OCD. This is a conversation about fear, identity, suffering, and hope. Matt, welcome.
Thanks, Louis. Glad to be here, man.
So, Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you currently in your life?
I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I was
Cool.
born and raised in this area, and we just moved back here. Currently, my wife and I own a business, and we launched Peacefully Wired, so we're running that. We have a private community off of social media for people that struggle with OCD. It's called the Peacefully Wired OCD community. I'm currently studying to be a personal trainer. So we got a lot of things going on right now.
Excellent, excellent. I know when we first spoke about this, I'd never even heard of HOCD. Okay. So, how would you explain to somebody what it is, what it feels like, a little bit about it?
Sure. So HOCD, or sexual orientation OCD, gay OCD, is a subtype, if you will, a theme of OCD. And it is where people that are struggling usually have a intense fear of being gay. They have an intense fear of rejection, which is actually at the base of the whole deal, essentially. But they also have an identity crisis going on, a fear of what their identity is. And a lot of it centers around just not being 100% certain about what their sexuality is.
Yeah.
And it's across the board with OCD. Every theme essentially has a element of uncertainty. And with OCD, it's really big with, or HOCD, sorry, it's really prevalent with their inability to accept the fact that they might not never ever know 100% whether or not they are gay or straight. And there are people that are gay that can actually have straight OCD, but that's why some people call it sexual orientation OCD, because there are gay people that have a deep fear of being straight.
Wow. Wow. Okay. What would you say is the biggest misconception that people have got about having intrusive thoughts and sexual anxiety?
I'd say the biggest would be the fact that having intrusive thoughts, period, is bad. Having any kind of sexual intrusive thoughts are bad, and having sexual thoughts about the same sex, no matter what sex you are, is wrong and bad and has to mean something about you.
Wow. Okay. Okay. What are people secretly, the people that are suffering with this, what are they secretly doing behind doors? If you can take us into their mind as to what's really going on in their mind.
Sure. So what's going on in their mind most likely is they're having a lot of intrusive thoughts about the same sex. When they see the same sex, when they could have a partner that's of the opposite sex, and they will have intrusive thoughts. Just for example, say they go to kiss their loved one, and they will have an intrusive thought. OCD can make it feel like they're kissing a man. OCD can put the thought in their mind, you'd rather be kissing a man. You could see, if you're a guy, you could see an attractive woman walking down the street, and you might initially notice that, and then OCD will tell you, no, you wish that was a man. You'd rather have a man. You want a man to touch you. They can walk by a man, see a man on screen. You want that. You like his body. You want a man. You want to be with a man. All of that stuff.
Wow.
That's what's going on in their mind. And what they're usually doing is they're sitting there in their mind trying to prove to themselves that's not the case. They're searching in their mind for past experiences, trying to prove to themselves, trying to check their attraction to the opposite sex, trying to go through memories of being with old girlfriends and old encounters and hookups to make sure that they actually liked it. They're looking
Mm.
for all sorts of things.
Wow. And what kind of ways would they be checking? Obviously, you can help them, but before they get in contact with somebody like you, how would they be trying to check themselves to see if they potentially were attracted to the same sex?
Yeah, good question. So what I used to do a lot of, and what a lot of my students talk about, is body checking their reaction, right? So when they're in a really heightened state of anxiety, having a fear that they're attracted to the same sex, when they see the same sex, they'll get a feeling. It's called a false attraction. Essentially, they might get a groinal response. They might even get aroused, and so they're constantly checking for that. They're checking for that with the same sex. They're checking for that with the opposite sex. And then the checking can be watching adult content, watching straight, watching gay, trying to see what the reaction is again, and then trying to replay things in their mind, encounters. One thing I used to do was I tried to force myself to remember or imagine what it was like to hold my wife's hand. She was my girlfriend then, or kiss my wife. And OCD just will push that away from you, right? So every time you try to connect with a feeling that you want to have, OCD will make sure that you don't get that feeling. And then the opposite I would do is I would test myself and create fantasies of myself with guys, and I would get all of the feelings I didn't want to get. And so it was very confusing and distressing. I can
Yeah.
remember sitting in our kitchen one time, going back and forth, trying to imagine holding my wife's hand, kissing my wife, and being intimate with my wife. Couldn't get anything. And then I would fantasize about, fantasy doesn't have to be a positive fantasy. You can fantasize about anything. You can
Yeah.
fantasize about hurting somebody, whatever. And
Mm.
so I would do that. And I can remember just breaking down, just crying and just not screaming, really verbally, why can't I feel what I want to feel? And it was
Yeah.
extremely just this before I knew what it was. And so those are some of the things that I went through. And I
Wow.
know not everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, but most of the
Yeah.
people I talk to that experience this have similar things that they do.
Wow. So it's a real battle, eh?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
real battle.
Okay. And how badly can this affect somebody's life? I mean, their relationship, their parenting, their sleep, their work. How would it affect them?
Across the board, it can affect everything, right? It will affect their sleep because they will have anxiety 24/7. So they will find it very difficult to sleep. They will probably have nightmares. I know I did. I had a lot of same sex, you call them nightmares, but they were just encounters that I didn't
Mm.
want. Some of them were dark, even in the dark persuasion. It will affect their relationship because they will either avoid their partner or they will try to use their partner as a checking point to have intimacy with them to make sure that they feel a certain way. And then during intimacy, they will get intrusive thoughts and images and urges towards the same sex. It could happen even during a climax. They could have
Yeah.
an intrusive thought pop in. Oh my God, what does that mean? Definitely affects work. It affected my life to where I was essentially, I had a really hard time having a job for probably about a year. I was on my wife's couch. She was my girlfriend at the time. I slept most of the day. I watched TV most of the day. I ate a lot of junk food.
Wow.
This was a point in my life when I had stopped using substances. I was using substances my whole life to cope with this, but I didn't really know what it was. I just thought I liked getting high, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wasn't doing that this time. My coping mechanisms were eating and sleeping and watching television. And
Wow.
work was, and there are people that have the opposite experience to where they find a lot of solace in their work and they really focus in on their work, but when they're not working, it's going on full blast. I was just one of those people. I always was like, I want to feel good before I can do this thing, and I
Yeah.
never felt good, so I never wanted to do anything.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, look, work can be an addiction like anything else, eh? I
Yeah.
mean, if we're working all the time, we're avoiding something, or if we're drinking, we're avoiding something, or if we're doing drugs, we're avoiding something. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, it's wow, okay. So,
It's an addiction I wish I would have picked up, to be honest with you. I always moved away from work, and
yeah,
I probably had OCD about working, and now I'm working on shifting to not to where I have a positive
yeah,
obsession for working, but I'm really pushing myself to work when I normally wouldn't work and do things when I wouldn't do them.
yeah. I've seen the stuff that you're doing at Peacefully Wired, incredible, and the amount of lives that you're helping, just amazing. What's the emotional experience that people are carrying from this? Like you lying on the couch and you're not going to work, and what's the emotional experience behind this?
You have a lot of guilt and shame. And that's a lot of what I experienced. I had a lot of guilt. I can remember specifically little small things, but I'd wake up in the morning, my wife would get up, and I could hear her talking to our dogs and in the sweet way that she does. And I would immediately start to cry because of how I thought I was ruining her life. I was like, I'm in this relationship with her and I think I'm gay. At this point, I really was like, I'm gay and I'm living a lie. And so little things like that would give me a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, because I loved her so much, and I could
Yeah.
feel a lot of guilt coming from how sweet of a person that she was. I was like, I'm ruining
Yeah.
this person's life. And
Wow.
the shame
Wow.
that you can feel. Society is way more accepting about homosexuality than it's probably ever been, especially in the Western culture. But you do still have a lot of people, and without going into anything any deeper, but you still have a lot of people that think it's wrong, that use religion to say that it's wrong. And you got a lot of aggressive males that are still very homophobic. And so
Yeah.
there was a lot of shame in, if I'm gay, does that mean I'm less of a man? What if this guy finds out that I'm gay and doesn't like that and wants to harm me, because that does
Wow.
happen. So there was a
Yeah.
lot of shame with that, shame with my family and
Wow.
things of that nature. And so that was a struggle. I think I cared more about my wife. I don't know how much I really cared about people, but it was still something that was there. And I would do things to try to make sure I wasn't coming across like I was gay, right? Like trying to behave in a manly way, which is something a lot of guys do. A lot of guys will posture, as I call it,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
will. I even had a student, I was on the call with him, and we just started the call. Hey, Matt, hold on a second. He gets off the call and comes back and says, yeah, I'm walking in the park. I just saw a girl. I had to go get her number. And I was like, you realize what you did is a huge compulsion, right? You not only tried to prove to me that you weren't gay, you tried to prove to yourself that you weren't gay. You tried to prove to that girl that you weren't gay. And anybody else that might've been watching that interaction, you were trying to prove that you weren't gay. I was like, it was wild, but it's just, my coaches have told some wild stories about people on calls with them. And I was like, that was firsthand. I got to witness what OCD behavior is. And when you
Wow.
recover, you can forget what it was like to be there. And then all I
Yeah.
have to do is really start to remember like all the things I did. But when you recover from it, you forget a little bit about the behaviors that you did. And it's easy to
Mm.
get really frustrated with that kind of behavior, but
Wow.
it
Wow.
is what it is.
Because there's shame involved, most people try and just figure it out themselves. I assume, I'm just assuming, but most people would hide it and try and figure it out themselves. If you're trying to figure it out yourself, does it make it worse, or can it just fix it on its
Absolutely.
own?
No, I won't. You will never figure it out. And one of the biggest things about OCD in general, whether it's HOCD, relationship OCD, harm, POCD, a very hot topic and button for a lot of people, you will never know 100% whether or not that is what you are, right? And so the biggest part about recovering from any theme is getting to a point to where you can absolutely unconditionally accept, not agree with it, not like it. Doesn't mean you would like it if that was the case, but you
Mm.
have to accept the 0.0001% chance that you are your biggest fear, or it can't release.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
else other than that is reassurance. And you see it a lot in the OCD community. A lot of reassurance is given, a lot of technical terms, a lot of these thoughts go against your values. Just
Yeah.
remind yourself of that kind of stuff. And that doesn't get people recovered because they are not getting at the core of, look, I've come to the conclusion, like, I will never know 100% if I am or I'm not. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to know. That needing to know, that solving it, the thing that people do to try to get to that point, okay, I've solved it,
Yeah.
won't work. And the reassurance stuff can work on a short timeline. And you can get even people that have, oh yeah, I'm good. I had 2018, I thought I was good.
Yeah.
And 3 years later, OCD manifested in another theme. But then it also, the OCD, HOCD and ROCD, they interlap. they
Yeah.
interweave, they overlap into each other. And so I thought I was good, came right back, and then I started noticing stuff with my old theme. And it was because I never really fully got to where I don't need to prove to myself whether I am this or not. I'm never going to know 100% because things like sexuality, look, if I was 100%, it never would have latched. If I was 100%, it gets into the gray area. There are gray areas in life. No matter what anybody says about what their
Yeah.
sexuality is, there's gray areas. We don't
Yeah.
know. You don't know. They say you can't control who you're attracted to. You can, things
Yes.
change in life, right? So I
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
accept, even though now I identify, I have a pretty good indicator that I like women. I don't know 100%, and that's okay with me. And if people have commented on my content, oh, I don't know, are you gay or are you straight? And I'm just like, that's not the point. That's not the point of the content. The content is to get you to understand you don't need to know that. That's
Yeah.
certainty.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of that. A lot of people are afraid of, I've had people comment and say, I can't accept my worst case scenario. I won't. I absolutely will not. And it's sad to hear because I know how this disorder works, and I know if you can't on a long enough timeline, you will suffer greatly because what they say about OCD is it gets worse with age, and I have absolutely found that out the
Wow.
hard way.
Okay. Yeah. So you spoke about something interesting just now. You spoke about the reassurance. Why do people become addicted to checking and the reassurance? Why do they become addicted to that, do you think?
Humans, first and foremost, are addicted to certainty. Humans absolutely crave certainty, moving
Absolutely.
towards uncertainty, needing reassurance, needing to get that dopamine hit. That's really what it comes down to is when people are doing reassurance and checking compulsions, they're trying to get 100% certainty. Hey, mom, do you think I'm gay? Have you ever noticed if I was gay? Hey, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever side you're on, do you think I'm gay? Do you notice any gay tendencies? Asking friends, Googling, taking gay tests. They
Yeah.
want that 100% certainty because it makes them feel better, like everything's okay. And the thing about life is uncertain. I'm not guaranteed to wake up tomorrow. I have a
Yeah.
pretty good indicator that I will, but I don't know what will happen in my sleep. My wife could decide to smother me with a pillow. I don't know. My cat could in the night slash my jugular. I don't know, but I'm not guaranteed to wake up tomorrow. I'm not also guaranteed that if I put hard work into something that it's going to come out the way that I want it to.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
guaranteed that I picked the right person to spend my life with, right? There's none of those things are guaranteed or certain 100%. And so
Mm.
OCD recovery, especially from stuff like HOCD, is all about not needing to be reassured. And it's really uncomfortable to not get that answer. And so that uncomfortable feeling is very difficult for OCD sufferers to experience, sit with, and let pass and not
Wow.
try to make themselves feel better. And
Yeah.
every time they try to make themselves feel better, they tighten the grip and it gets tighter and tighter.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, look, I'm a coach myself, and I can tell you that I've got a mentor, and my mentor said to me, you can't see the problem from inside the jar. You can't see the label. And it's often like that we're in a problem and we can't actually see the solution. The solution is just on the outside of that. We need somebody else to look in, even somebody like Tiger Woods, amazing golfer. He's got a coach because
Sure.
he can't actually swing and watch himself and work out he needs somebody to help him. But the service that you're offering, where you actually just helping people, incredible, incredible. And I don't think I told you this before, but my best friend when I was younger, he actually committed suicide, and
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, he went to the military, and he turned gay, and then something happened, and then he actually committed suicide, and it was a terrible thing. But I can see how people get into the spiral. And not that I've got lots of people I've got lots of friends that are gay and they love being gay and they live with it and that's what they love and that's fine. You're not talking about that. You're talking about people that are just torn between these two worlds.
Yeah.
And
A lot of it comes down to being able to unconditionally accept yourself, right? Because if
yeah,
you're someone that's struggling on that type of a level, there's a level of conditional acceptance. I can't accept myself if I'm gay, and it's for
yeah,
whatever reason.
yeah,
Society. I have a client who I have a few clients that have, said that their siblings or family members have said negative things about being gay. I have one whose dad and grandfather have said outwardly things about homosexuals, and that kind of stuff. For me, that's some of the stuff that caused that fear. Hearing it in my life, negative connotations of being gay in a negative way, stuff on the news.
Yeah.
I remember Matthew Shepard comes to my mind when I think of early '90s. This young man, I think, was in Wyoming, a place where you probably better keep that to yourself, right? You know what I mean? It's Wyoming is
Yeah.
not the most progressive place, and still to this till now, but even in the '90s, even less. But was beaten up and killed because he was gay. And so you
Terrible.
see things like that, and you hear it in popular culture. I'm a huge hip hop fan. A lot of hip hop that I listened to as a young man had a lot of negative stereotypes about gays not being as seen as manly, right? That's another
Yeah.
thing, because people think of a gay man, they think of someone who's very effeminate,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
feminine. And there are lots of manly gay dudes. They
Yeah.
exist. Lots of
Yeah.
guys you wouldn't even know are gay, right? And all that stuff can build up and put that seed of fear in your mind as an OCD
Hmm.
sufferer. And then boom, one day, what if I'm gay? When it just doesn't, it can be anything. Something can trigger, you can just have an intrusive thought, that guy's handsome. And then all of a sudden, what does that mean? Am I gay?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. Wow.
you're gone. You're cooked, as
Wow.
my coach likes to say.
Yeah. So what's the biggest shift someone needs to make, would you say, to start getting their life back?
The first biggest shift is to start to change their relationship with how they react to what's going on. So the first thing I recommend to everybody I work with is stopping the reaction that you have to these intrusive thoughts, urges, images, sensations. Because a lot of people want them to go away right away. That's where the reassurance and the compulsion stuff comes in. I don't want to feel bad. The thoughts make them feel bad. And it's because they've built up a habit to the reaction, right? So they've had this reaction to it. They've been trying to get it to go away, and it's just reinforced it. So they are now in this state of mind where they're lost.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of it is due to the way that they're reacting to what's happening. They're waking up in the morning having a lot of intrusive thoughts. They're encountering men, they're having intrusive urges and images, and they're
Mm.
reacting poorly to those. They're acting like it's the worst thing in the world. They're
Yeah.
acting like, I got to get rid of this, I got to run away, or I've got to check and make sure. And all that stuff won't go right away, but that's the first place to start, right? Cutting the compulsions and cutting the relationship with it. Stop reacting to it. Let it be
Yeah.
there. Let it happen. The more you try to get it to go away, the worse you're going to make it for yourself. And that's initially very difficult, because there is that element of uncertainty. It feels so real. It feels that if they don't do that checking compulsion, if they don't get reassurance, then that thing's going to come true. They're going to lose
Yeah.
control. They're going to reach out and touch a random guy as they're standing in line somewhere, because they want to check so bad. I had many of those moments where I was like, God, maybe I just need to try to kiss this guy to see if I'm going to get some reaction. Maybe I need to grab this guy or do something. And maybe I
Yeah.
need to go on the internet and find a gay man and have an encounter. Maybe I need to check in that way. And we feel like we're going to lose control, essentially. And so the very first thing is the reaction, stopping the reaction to how
Mm.
it's making you feel. Just because something makes you feel a certain way doesn't mean that you have to feel that way. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Just because I get a feeling of sadness, that doesn't mean I have to be sad.
Yeah. True. True. So what's something that people try and do themselves that usually backfires? I could see how any of those things you've told me so far could backfire, but what's something
Yeah,
that,
I mean, basically all of that. I would say, and I have heard stories of people going out and trying to test, right? And it could be with a man or a woman. I can actually remember initiating intimacy with my wife many times because I was like trying to prove to myself. And there were times when I couldn't perform because I had so much anxiety going on. I was afraid of not performing, which
yeah.
is another big problem that a lot of guys that have HOCD have. I have a student that from from an encounter when they were like, I think in high school, their first encounter with a woman, they were unable to get going, right? And so because of that, when they started having HOCD latch on, they started using that so they can try to use that as a
Wow.
barometer. But yeah, I've heard of people having encounters that will just make you more confused because your anxiety level is going to be so high. Your brain doesn't know the difference between gay or straight sex. It sees
Yeah.
sex.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why when you see a sexual encounter, whether it's a man and a woman and a man, two women, whatever it is, your brain sees sex.
Yeah.
And if you have a heightened state of awareness, you're going to be uber aroused, over aroused almost. I can remember times looking at gay adult stuff, and my anxiety was so high, but there was also a state of arousal, which was very confusing. So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those types of things, like the checking, I would think that will backfire. And it's very understandable. It seems logical, right?
Mm.
Let me just check and make sure. But the thing about it is like a straight person doesn't have to ever check. You know what I mean? A straight person doesn't have to watch two guys together to make sure that they're not
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't have to watch straight stuff to check as well, right? A gay man doesn't wake up in the morning and go, I think I'm going to be gay today, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that you are proving. Nobody
Yes.
that's essentially is that thing is going to try to prove it to themselves. But
Yeah. Yeah.
logic goes out the window when you're struggling a great deal and you want to get rid of all of this stuff and you think that's the way that's going to do it, but it does the reverse.
Wow. Wow. So for somebody listening right now, maybe they're 2 o'clock in the morning, they're panicking and they feel completely alone and they don't know who to turn to, and they've got all these thoughts, like you've said, of what if I am? What will my parents think? What will happen in my community? They're running through all this stuff in their mind. What would you like them to hear?
What they're not going to want to hear, which is you need to sit with that and take the risk of not doing a compulsion, not checking, not Googling, not waking your partner up and asking them, not crying, not freaking out, right? Again, it's all the response. The more we act like it's the worst thing in the world, the worse off we're going to be. So take the risk that it might be true and don't engage and work towards leaning into the uncomfortable feeling of not knowing 100%. And you're never gonna know. Like my coach told me is, Matt, you're never gonna know
Mm.
100% if you love your wife. There's no really way to quantify that because it's not really a feeling. Love is a choice that we make.
Yeah.
Everything else is the newness of a relationship or the lust or the excitement of all these different things. But none of those things, love is not a quantifiable feeling. Your partner might make you feel good. You might feel
Yeah.
good being around them. That's not what love is. Love is a choice that you make despite how they make you feel, right? Despite, and when he told me that, because that was when I started getting help, was when I had already gotten help for HOCD from somebody who was just incomplete.
Yeah.
And then ROCD really latched on. And so I just applied that to HOCD as well.
Wow.
I'm never
Okay.
going to know 100%. And I've gotten to a point to where I don't need to know if somebody thinks I'm gay. Okay, that's cool with me. If someone gets the wrong idea from my content, which some people have, again,
Yeah.
I think I had somebody comment on a post I did because I took your advice. I started making some content with what we
Yeah.
were going over. And
Yeah.
I posted something and somebody commented and said, accept Jesus and repent, because they thought I was talking like it was me. And I didn't say anything. And somebody actually commented, it was like, what a weird thing to say. Most people
Yeah.
don't like this and that. And I just thought, and I was okay with that. And there was a time where I would have needed to go, hey, you know what? I'm not actually gay, but I just was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If he
Yeah.
thinks that
Yeah.
I am, then okay, that's fine.
It's their journey, hey. They're on their own
Yeah.
journey, and it's
This is where you
yeah.
want to get. If you're an OCD sufferer, you want to get to the place to where it doesn't matter to you. The thing is, people will say, how are they going to move forward if they don't know for sure? Right? This
Yeah.
is where you get a lot of people that use the ego dystonic thing to share with people, right? Fancy term. What does it mean? It means that essentially what it means is your thoughts are going against what your actual values are. And
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
something that was told to me, and it made me feel better in the moment, and I used it a lot. And I think a lot of people use it a lot, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter because that's a certainty exchange, right?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
your therapist is telling you, something that's giving you certainty.
Mm.
And long timeline won't work. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I teach people to be okay with being uncertain about everything. My life is lived in uncertainty, and I've gotten, not that it doesn't make me, I'm not happy about it. I would like to know, hey, everything's going to be okay. I would
Yeah.
like to know things are going to work out. I would like to know I'm putting hard work into something, that I have something to show for it. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. Plenty of people work hard and never get what they truly want out of life or out of
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. We just never know what's around the next corner. Hey.
We
So
never know.
so Matt, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way? How would they get a hold of you? Do you have can they have a virtual coffee with you? How does that work?
Sure. So we have a few ways. One would just be emailing support@peacefullywired.com, and we can initiate a couple different things. We can do a quick 15-minute call
Okay.
just to see what's happening. Coaching with me is available as well. And then we have the Peacefully Wired OCD community.
Perfect.
I just know with my coaches, I just dove right in. That wasn't an option for me to meet with them and try to see. But here's the
Yeah.
thing about people that have OCD. A lot of people call OCD the doubting disorder. And people that have OCD have a very tough time making decisions for themselves. They want to
Yeah.
gather all the information. It has to feel just right. I got to get that right moment. That moment's never going to come. You're
Yeah.
never going to feel right. You have to take the chance. It's not really about who's going to be the best fit for me. It's actually who's going to teach you how to get better. And a lot
Yeah.
of people shy away from that because they want to work with somebody that's going to make them, and I do my best to make people feel comfortable, but at the same time, I give tough love and I'm straight with people and I call people out on their BS.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people don't like that, but the thing that people get into the weeds, and you just
Yeah.
the 15-minute thing is something that we just added, and I'm adding it mostly for younger kids because I do get people that are younger that contact me, and we set that up for them and their parents
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
can't work with somebody if they don't have parental consent. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what we set that up for. If you're anybody and you're an adult, you just need to make the decision, and it's the way it is. Whether it's me
Perfect.
or somebody else, right? You just got to take that you got to make that decision by
Yeah.
yourself. It's very difficult for people that have OCD to make their own decisions because of reassurance. We want to know,
Yeah.
am I making the right decision? Hey, does this shirt look good? Right? If I go out, I gotta make sure my shirt looks good, right?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah,
I love
those are
it.
the
I
ways.
love it. And they can come into a no judgment environment where they can talk to somebody who's actually been through it. So they're not just talking to a
Absolutely.
counselor who's read about it in a book. They're talking to somebody like you who's actually been through the whole process and understands where they are and how to help them. So I'm sure all your in the comments there'll be all the links for people to book in coffee or chat with you, or I don't know if have you got a Facebook group? Have you got a Facebook group or something that
I don't have a Facebook group. Our group is on a platform called School.
Oh, okay. So you've got a school group. Okay.
School.
So we'll put all the links into all that stuff so that people can reach out to you. And yeah, this has been amazing, Matt. Thank you so much. I
Thank
think
you,
it's
Louis.
such
I
an
appreciate it. Great questions, by the way, man. I really enjoyed
oh,
sharing all that stuff with
thanks,
you.
mate. I think it's such an important job that you're doing. We've got so many pressures on us already. Okay. We got the war in Iran and we got the fuel prices and we got people can't afford there to live. And we've got all these pressures already. And then we've got all the social media and all those pressures of what social media thinks we see what everyone else is doing. And then this is just added, like an added anxiety. And if we can
Yeah,
just eliminate these and just start eliminating those out of our lives, and then working with somebody like you, definitely a great option just to be able to help them to see from outside their problem how to fix it. So,
yeah.
really cool. Matt, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you today.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.